So welcome everyone. My name is Blanca Pineda. In case you don't know me, I am the current chair of the Latinx Task Force. And we are so excited to have Andrea Naranjo, Stephanie Fuentes, and Flores Escobar Rodas today in our panel. In our panel today is going to be about life after PAU. Andrea, Flor, and Stephanie are PAU alumni, so we are so excited to have them here. And they're going to talk about their different diverse career paths. So welcome, and thank you for joining us today. So let's get started with Stephanie. So Stephanie, if you can get started and introduce yourself and let us know what program you graduated from here at PAU. And what work are you doing now?
Wonderful. Well, thank you for having me be a part of this, Blanca. So again, my name is Stephanie Fuentes. Hopefully you guys could hear me pretty well, and sorry if there is an echo. But basically I did the master's of arts in counseling psychology. So it's the emphasis in MFT. I started the program, gosh, it was like 2012 and then graduated in 2015. Took an extra quarter there. So currently I'm actually in private practice. Last month I turned 2 years in private practice. It's been such a long time. And in September, I actually met my 2 years of being licensed. So it's been quite some time now. And remind me the other question.
Yes. So the next question is your career path to get to the position where you are now in private practice.
Yeah.
How did you come to that position?
Interesting enough, when I started the program, I never thought I'd go into private practice. I was actually like, no, I'm never going to do it. That's not what I'm coming in for. But through all of the experience that I had, I realized that in order to make like a better impact and also have the flexibility in my schedule, going into private practice would be like ideal for me. I actually ended up working in all levels of care through the program. I was able to get the internship with the county. So I received the stipend and the fellowship. And in that, experience, I got exposed to a lot of the county services. So when I graduated, I started working in an outpatient with a nonprofit, then went into county level where I worked as it was either in the hospitalization unit, it was in the mobile crisis. It was working with teens, children, or adults. So, from that experience, I shifted to like the VA, and in just working in all levels of care, I decided I was ready to take the leap on my own. It was honestly through a sense of community and through the Latinx community and on Facebook and Instagram and everything that I was able to get support and launch my private practice in 2018. And that's just kind of how the journey ended up, taking me.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, and how are your experiences and training here at PAU help you to go into the different trainings that you've had, internships, and into private practice?
Well, going back to the opportunity that I had with PAU, at the time, I think the program was also developing, so there was a little bit more flexibility maybe than there is like now. I'm not sure how things are, but they were very open, especially the directors were really open into having me like go into like conferences or take make connections, either be with like the county or other community agencies. So just having that flexibility, and obviously professors like Dr. Roller and Dr. Baima that were very supportive and just empowering like students. I think that was very helpful overall. So I think the sense of like community, the flexibility to like just take like risks, whether it be like, applying for, proposals or, just different things. So that was truly very helpful. And overall that there was like accessibility. So there was someone that you could reach out to and they get back to you right away, which is always nice.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. And what advice would you give someone, a student here at PAU who wants to open a private practice? What are some of the things that they could do as they think about doing that?
Well, going back to what I was saying is, I wouldn't have taken this leap if I wouldn't have had the experience that I did at the community level. So I would say it'd be really good for you to get the experience that you need in order to go into private practice. If I wouldn't have known the different levels of care or known how to navigate the different kinds of insurances, many other situations, and in the clients as well, I wouldn't have felt comfortable being in private practice. So that's the first thing. The second is, you're always going to want to take the leap with having it all figured out. But the reality is it's never going to be a perfect timing. You just have to take the leap and learn from, the process. I didn't realize I had to get like certain, like I did get the state licensure, but I couldn't get the city like permit. So then I had to like navigate that, and then had to get like an EIN. So I didn't figure that out till like 2-3 weeks later after I started private practice. So it's like things along the way that you're going to learn. But it's, it'll never be a good time. So just take the leap. And the last piece is, just try to expose yourself just to as much. Be very curious, like ask others in the community, create like your support system, because it's going to be an ongoing process. But if you have like a good network, it'll be really good for you to take this leap.
And do you serve people in English and Spanish, or just one language?
Yeah, so when I got hired in the county, I took the bilingual exam. It's not that hard, but I was able to take it, and I would probably 80% of my caseload would be Spanish speakers. So even in my private practice, a lot of folks come in and they'll ask like, "Are you bilingual?" And that definitely like helps out a lot.
So in order to offer another language, service in another language, you have to take a test then through the county?
Yeah, if you do work at a, with like county, agencies, definitely. And in private practice, obviously it's a perk if you are bilingual, or if you, specialize in a specific modality. That's very helpful. But yeah, you do need to pass the bilingual exam, either be at the county level or with like nonprofits. And you also get a raise as well. You get a specific a percentage of a raise in addition to your salary.
Oh, great. Thank you. And something I forgot to mention at the beginning is that if you have questions, you can post them on the chat box, and then we'll ask those questions from the panelists as well. And Dr. Roller just mentioned that to get the bilingual stipend, passing the 3-level exam is required. So, yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, Stephanie. We'll have questions at the end, and we really appreciate you being here today. It's very helpful for all of our students.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we'll go to Flor floor. Thank you so much for coming today and participating. And I'll ask you to start again by introducing yourself and then tell us what program did you graduate from here at PAU?
Thank you, Blanca. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for letting me be a part of this panel. It's really good to still be connected to PAU and see that it's thriving, especially with Spanish-speaking Latino future clinicians. So I was actually in the master's program, the same as Stephanie, with an emphasis in MFT. It was a master's of arts in counseling with an emphasis of marriage and family therapy. And it was a hybrid format. So we did online and we also did in person. I lived in San Francisco. I still live in San Francisco. So I would go out there and do the in-person classes, and then have, I think, like once or twice a week do the online format. I'm not sure if the programs have changed. Well, I know now with COVID, but that was just kind of my life for, I think, a few years, 2 or 3 years.
Right, great. And can you tell us about what you're doing now? What kind of work you're doing now?
Yeah. So I'm actually a full-time individual and family therapist at Seneca in San Francisco. It's Seneca is a community-based nonprofit mental health agency that's has services in Washington State and also in California, all over California. So I have been there, I think, for about I started in 2018, so about 2 years. And I graduated from PAU back in the winter of 2017. I've been working there and doing community-based work. So you have to drive around often to wherever the client is. You can do school-based work. You can do the therapy at home, out in the community, whatever the preference is for the family.
Great, thank you. And can you tell us about how the experiences and training here at PAU has helped you to get to the position, and what has been your career path to the position where you are now?
Yeah, I mean, I think in grad school, I was able to start my traineeship at CHAC, which is really awesome nonprofit that is able to provide therapy, school-based therapy to school districts around the area. I think it was in Sunnyvale, and I forget which other districts, Palo Alto. It was mainly elementary and some middle school and some high schools. But I feel like I was able to get a lot of my experience to start off there working with children. And I also had Dr. Roller help me out a lot. I think that she was a great contributor to my success. We were able to collaborate over at a preschool called Family Connections. It was this nonprofit that runs daycare and preschool, and so there was a group for moms, and they're able to kind of process their experience of being a mother and also just being, a human being in this world, and how community can really support them in living their lives to the best that they can for their children, their families, and themselves. That was a really great experience. I really enjoyed it. And I feel like just that community-based work was able to kind of open my eyes that therapy can look very different depending on where you work. And I just kind of gravitated towards community-based work with low-income families in Medi-Cal. And I've definitely grown a lot of confidence in doing the work in Spanish. I think there are a lot of Spanish speaking families out there and that need support. And so I think having someone at PAU, having a professor to really push me and support me in those skills of speaking Spanish and putting myself out there really helped me in looking around for different positions out in the community.
Great, thank you. So what advice would you give students here at PAU right now who are looking into maybe positions similar to yours?
Yeah, well, so I work with at Seneca, and it's a nonprofit, and they contract with Medi-Cal. So a lot of nonprofit community-based agencies work with Medi-Cal or contract with Medi-Cal. So I would always, I think even in my head on a day-to-day basis, I sometimes when things get overwhelming, I just kind of accept the fact that, no offense to Medi-Cal and taxpayers, including myself, but Medi-Cal is a nightmare. But you learn to deal with it. So it's, and always think critically. Sometimes I feel like Medi-Cal or the pressures of doing administrative work can get in the way of being able to put your time and energy into supporting the work with families and therapy. So I try to think about, okay, how can I do my job clinically as much as possible? If I could erase all the responsibilities of Medi-Cal and admin, and I could just focus on the client during that hour, how would I do that? So those are the two biggest things that I would say, and accepting that you also make mistakes, no matter what kind of position you're in. I think especially in community-based, because it is so different, there's so much flexibility, and there's so much like trainings and meeting people, coworkers, collaborating with teams, with the county, foster care, the foster care system, that you're going to learn something every day. And so if you make a mistake, that's completely fine. I've made a ton of mistakes, but I feel like it was also a rewarding experience, because I not only got to learn how to navigate Medi-Cal and the foster care system with my kids and therapy, but also the bigger picture of how I can utilize my experiences in case I do go into private practice or a nonprofit that doesn't involve Medi-Cal. So yeah, I think those would be the main things, and have a good car too. You did just, I don't have a car now, but yeah, have a good car, and just, have a lot of music with you. You're gonna travel a lot. You're gonna be an excellent driver, especially if you're in San Francisco. Have insurance, of course, and yeah, just have fun with it, and try to stick with someone too. If you have someone that you really get along with at work, a coworker or a supervisor, use them to your advantage. Like, they have so many resources and so much wisdom. Try to really find a relationship there, and use it to the best of your ability.
Great, thank you so much. So now we'll ask Andrea Naranjo to speak now. Thank you so much, Andrea, for coming. We're very grateful that you're here. And we'll start and ask you the same question. Please introduce yourself and let us know what program did you graduate from here at PAU.
Hi, thank you for having me, and hi to everyone. My name is Andrea Naranjo, and I graduated from PAU in 2016 from the PhD program. So I was there for 4 years plus internship, and I was working with Dr. Barrera as my research advisor, and I was in the DCMH track, the Diversity and Community Mental Health.
Oh, great. So can you tell us about the work that you're doing now or recently?
Yeah, we'll go with recently. So most recently, I had my daughter. So she's a little baby now. So I actually left the position that I was in. I was working in Santa Rosa at Santa Rosa Community Health Center. It's a federally qualified health center. So there's medical clinics that are all over the country that are federally funded. And they are required, in order to have that designation, they're required to have medical health services, dental services, and mental health services. So I'm under that mental health, behavioral health umbrella role. So I started there with my postdoc. So I did my postdoc there for a year. And before that, when I was doing my internship, right before graduating, it was also an internship that was focused in that at an FQHC doing a similar in a similar role. And I fell in love with integration and behavioral health, and it involves a lot of kind of consultation with medical providers, with psychiatrists, with families. I'm not in the office doing therapy, which I actually loved. After a little while, I think I got kind of burned out by therapy, and I was really engaged with like the quick, fast-paced nature of it. I was going into the exam rooms and doing just brief interventions. So I was seeing patients between 15 to 20 minutes. So it kept it really interesting and exciting. When I was in practicum, I had done a few rotations in like psych emergency, which I thought was also like really like exhilarating and fun. And so it had a little bit of that flavor, I think. So I really enjoyed it in internship. And so then I was looking for something similar for postdoc. And so I ended up, I was in Denver, Colorado for internship. And then I was able to come back home to California for postdoc in that position. And I did that for a year. And then I stayed on, I got hired. And so after I got licensed, I was there probably for 6 months. And after that, they were hiring a manager for one of the clinics. So Santa Rosa Community Health, that organization has 10 clinics throughout Santa Rosa and Sonoma County. And so they were looking for a manager for one of their clinics that serves primarily Spanish speakers. I was like brand new licensed. I had had my license for 6 months, and everyone in that clinic, there was 10 other clinicians that were already in that clinic, and they were all, I think that like the newest one had been there already for like 5 years, and had been licensed for 10 years. And so then there's some other ones that are like closer to retirement. But I was able to, I had talked to my director, and I was like really excited about being there. I had a lot of ideas that I had brought with me from internship that I was sharing with her. And so, so she encouraged me to apply for the manager role. And so because I was so new, they created a position for me that was a supervisor instead of a manager. And that was supposed to be kind of like this interim, like training probationary period. So I was supervisor for a year, and then after that I became manager. And so that was great. I really enjoyed it. Kind of one of the big things that I was able to do there was focus on program development. We took at that clinic at the time, they were doing more traditional short-term therapy. And we took it to a new model of higher integration, where we were doing a lot of consultation with medical providers and just kind of brief, quick visits for patients. And so I fell in love with that project, and that was really fun. So that was that's been my kind of where I've been working. And there we also had we had medical residents that I was able to be a part of with training. We had one of the training directors had like a regular radio show and like a TV program that he did, and so I got to go on a few times and do that, which was really fun. I worked with kids. It was just kind of like a generalist position too. So it was mostly adults, but there was also children and families. So it was a great variety.
Yeah. Great. Thank you so much for sharing that. And can you talk about your experiences in training at PAU and how that helped you, get to the different positions that you've been in?
Yeah, I think so. When I started, I don't think I knew what I was getting myself into. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I think I resisted for a little while the DCMH route and like, the working with Latinos, because I felt like it was so cliche. I'm like, oh, like, of course the Spanish speaker is going to go and like work with Spanish speakers. But I was still curious enough, because I knew that there was a big need for it. So, but I think I was mostly interested in substance use disorders at the time. And so those were some of the opportunities that I was looking for. And I think one of the things at PAU that was really helpful was that I had a really great variety of experiences. And I've learned something that I learned about myself is that I get bored quickly, or maybe it's not that I get bored, but there's so many different things that I like. And I'm scared to like just pigeonhole into one of them. And so I think at PAU, I was actually able to have a lot of different experiences, which has been really helpful now. So one of the practicums that I did, I started at Gronowski Clinic, and then my second practicum was at Marin County, and I did a rotation there in psych emergency and at one of the elementary schools. And then the main practicum there was working with Spanish-speaking families. And then my practicum after that was at El Camino Hospital in the substance use department. And then I did some neuropsych there too, some testing. And so because I just got to I feel like I never got to really like specialize or really focus on one thing, but I had a lot of opportunities to do a lot of different things. And then during internship, kind of the same thing. And later on at postdoc, just kind of trying to say yes as much as possible. And even though I think some of the other speakers kind of echoed that, just kind of saying yes to things, even though you're not 100% ready or prepared for it, and you figure it out along the way, has been great. And I think that's been really helpful.
Great, thank you for sharing that. And what advice would you give our current students who would like to go into a similar position that you last had?
Yeah, I guess, doing that and trying to have as many experiences, saying yes, trying to get exposure. I mean, I mentioned doing like the radio thing, like I had to do it in Spanish, and I was like, my Spanish is not that good, like I'm gonna mess it up. I was nervous about it. But then just kind of going and doing it anyways. And then I'm like, oh, that's not that bad. And then I did it again and it was fine. Again, similarly being in that like management role and like being really intimidated by I'm managing psychologists that are have much more experience than I do. But having, going for it, and then also having the support and the backing for it. So I had a great director and mentor that I was able to, ask questions and get that like confidence to continue to do it.
Great, thank you. So great, thank you all so much for sharing your stories and how PAU has been helpful to you and the positions that you're working on. This is going to be very helpful for our students. And there is a question for Stephanie on the chat box. I'm going to read it so that it's recorded for when we post this on our website, people know. So one of the questions from Dr. Roller is to Stephanie, if you will be interested in taking any paid consultation hours with students who might want to develop a private practice. And if so, we could share your contact info. And I know you responded on the chat, Stephanie, but maybe you can respond also right here so it can be recorded.
Yeah. So currently, aside from seeing clients and being contracted with, with companies and universities, I also support in developing clinicians who are currently in private practice or interested in doing that. I've also started working with just like interns, just to support them in figuring out either be, what direction they want to take or how they want to expand their private practice and get like opportunities at a larger ranking. So the name of my private practice is Vida Counseling and Consulting. So if you look that up, I'm also on like social media, but they can always reach out to me at sfuentes@paloalto.edu or the Stephanie D. Fuentes@gmail.com. And, most importantly, to know that, if students are able to, need some support, like from a financial standpoint, that I can, support them in whatever it is that they need. Another thing that I also forgot to mention in the beginning is when I first got licensed, I reached out to Dr. Baima and I mentioned, while I was in the program, I had a hard time finding a therapist, right? I know that part of the hours are supposed to be that, we kind of do our own, follow our own journey as well. So, I reached out to him and I said, if there are any students who are interested in seeing a counselor, and aren't able to, pay a full fee, that I'd be happy to take them on. And that's how I was able to start working with the university again. And, I try to give back in many ways, most importantly, because while I was going through the journey, it felt like, gosh, this is like a never ending journey. Like I'm interning, I'm working, I'm going to school, and it just feels like I'm never can actually be stable, right, in a way. So, now that I am, it's always good to be able to, and in general, this is good advice, I think, for everyone is to find ways to either, give back to the field by helping out other clinicians. So just wanted to make that little note there.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, there is a question for Andrea. What are your future career plans?
Thanks for asking the question. So one of the things I didn't mention was that I'm also doing some private practice, doing not therapy, but doing psychological evaluations, immigration evaluations specifically. So for people that are seeking asylum or that are applying for U visas that are coming to the U.S., I do evaluations for them. And then people that are here as residents that are trying to seek citizenship, I'll do work with them to get their forms and paperwork in order. So I've actually been able to continue to do that on the side, even though I left my other job. So I thought that for sure I was going to stay with integration and just kind of continue on that. But now the last few months, I'm kind of thinking about even doing a little bit more of some of those evaluations, and I've been really interested in doing some type of forensic work. So through those evaluations, I've been able to do some expert witness testimonies and go to court, and also super intimidating and not my area of focus or what I got into. But because I did take some classes at PAU and because I did have a little bit of a taste of it, I feel like I'm not totally starting from scratch. I know that would take a a lot of work and focus to go into that field, but it feels like it's something that I can pivot into. So I am kind of curious, lately, and I've been looking at, thinking about going back to work now and looking at some forensic positions that do offer some training in that.
Right, thank you. Okay, so there's a question from Dr. Roller. She says, one thing I hear from all three of you is the importance of support and mentorship relationships. Is there anything you can share with current students about how you identified mentors and or support people to develop your networks? How did you decide who to lean on, reach out to, and count on? Can we, Flor?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's really interesting because I really learned how to deeply appreciate the importance of relationships just as your process of being a therapist. I think for me, it was really just more of a feeling that it wasn't so much like there was rationale, I think, like in hearing the people and certain individuals and what they were saying, have agreeing with or resonating with what this other person was sharing, and then the feeling behind that. I think I really followed, and I tried to just push myself and get to know these people, not just necessarily, oh, you have something that I'm interested in, teach me, but also seeing that individual as a person, and seeing if you match with them and in your perspectives, and also in just their energy. I think that's something that has really drawn me to lean on these support people. And I actually have, even with people that are on the same track as you are, I have a few friends at CHAC, which Dr. Elizabeth knows, Dr. Revilla knows. It would be Dr. Joanna Servin, and Dr. Victor Rios. They're doing great. They say hi, and that they miss you. But yeah, just really having, like, just going with whoever you connect with, that feeling, that, you know, if you feel like you agree with them, or most of the time, or just really enjoy their company, I think that's a really great start to start a relationship and see how it unfolds. I still talk to my friends from CHAC, and they even consult me with some of our cases too, and we work together. So it's a nice little path to growing with other people, and then learning from others as well.
Thank you for sharing that. Stephanie, do you want to share something?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So another thing I'd like to add to what Flor said, definitely like cultivating the relationships, right? It's not just about like, hey, what can you give me? It's like finding ways that you can also, you know, support them and continue to maintain that relationship. But apart from like our coworkers and others, there's like many other individuals out in the community that also play a big part, right? I remember there was this book club that I went to, and there was, you know, there's this woman who had just shared like her book, and then she starts just talking about her journey, and I was like, I totally like admire her. I want to be able to like be her one day. And I just invited her out for coffee, and we started talking, and it turned out to be a beautiful like friendship, to where I'd also go and like babysit her kids, and we just like, you know, build. And she connected me to a coach who ended up supporting me in many other aspects of my life, either be like public speaking and, you know, really working on my professional growth. So, you know, it definitely goes a long way to nurture those other relationships outside in the community and say, okay, where do I want to get to, right? I want to meet this person. Then who are those other 10 people who are going to get me to meet this person? And how, when I do, how can I cultivate that friendship, right, moving forward?
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And Andrea, do you want to share anything about how you identify your mentors and support people?
Yeah, sure. So I would also agree, peers are a great way. During my internship, my supervisor at the time, he was great at kind of, you know, keeping us connected with like the past interns that were there, and then the future interns that were coming in, kind of training them and exchanging emails and all of that stuff. So I was able to stay connected with some of those peers. I would even reach out afterwards and say, hey, I am, because I think it's really really easy that after you graduate, or after you're done with that year program or whatever that you're doing, you know, everyone moves on to the next thing, and you kind of lose touch, even though you were close that year maybe. But just kind of reaching back out to them, and I would say, oh, I'm interested in writing an article about this, you know, like this is something that we have in common. Would you want to write it with me? Or, you know, like I'm going to an LPA to the conference this year. Are you going? And just kind of, you know, keeping in touch that way. And so that's been really nice, because then as people also kind of go through their careers, they're doing different things, and just being able to share. Some of them, like, you know, we've stayed in the same kind of career path. And so bouncing ideas off of them. Also, when I started doing the immigration evaluations, I ended up just kind of cold calling a lot of people. I was like Googling who in the area did these evaluations, and then I was like sending them an email randomly saying, "Hi, I'm really interested in what you're doing, and I'm a newly licensed psychologist. Would you be interested in meeting with me for lunch?" And I was surprised how many people said yes. So I was able to do that quite a bit. And then people are really eager to like help and, share what they're working on. So that was also a great way. And then just kind of like where I was working, right? The same kind of my peers there, and my director who was my manager, and just kind of going to her.
Great, thanks for sharing that. Let's see, there's another question. So, is there anything you had to learn the hard way out in the real world that maybe you would have preferred to learn while in the shelter of the program? A word to the wise students who might want to learn it the easy way through your direct experience. Can we start with Flor?
Yeah, that's a great question. You do learn a lot. I kind of see it as when you're learning how to drive before you get your license, you're practicing, but you really learn once you're out there and we're able to go wherever you want. I think I have definitely had a lot of lessons. Learning the hard way. I think maybe just how to really navigate your relationships with your clients and working in a multidisciplinary team. Because you have to balance that clinical, that therapeutic relationship with your families and your kids, and then also have to navigate the social workers and the lawyers if you're working in the foster care system. So I think I've definitely had some growing pains around that. Like, how can I really honor the confidentiality, the relationship with the client, especially if they have felt unheard or unseen by the systems that they're in, and at the same time advocating for the client and being able to work with the other team members, because I think everyone has good intentions and everyone wants to support the families. I think that is just something that you learn along the way, and you can make mistakes when you try to balance that communication between those two, client and team, and also yourself too. I think really listening to yourself and the way that you respond is also something that it can be a growing pain. Always trying to notice your own responses and notice your own tendencies. Sometimes you may not be aware of it, and then you might present yourself in a certain way that you didn't intend to, or maybe you weren't communicating specifically what you were hoping to communicate. But all in all, these are all things that can be learned, and that takes a process to do. And that's why the support of other people is so crucial, and being honest with each other about how you really feel when you're navigating these situations, because the more honest you are with someone that you trust, like a supervisor or a coworker or someone, a colleague that doesn't work with you, or someone in the community, you're able to really tune into yourself and see how to better approach the situation. Because ultimately, we're all human. We're not just these robotic like people that say validating phrases. We're all very complicated. So I think appreciating that has helped a lot.
Great, thank you for sharing that. Stephanie, do you want to add anything?
Well, there's many, right? Like Flor said, just, there's so much that you learn when you work in a county base, especially when it comes to like how to write like reports or, working with the different kinds of systems, whether, even when you're like mandated to go into court, just like there's so many like logistics, but of course that you learn along the way, and you reach out to your support system. Another thing that I've heard a lot from like other providers, luckily I wasn't in that situation, but like after you graduate, it was hard for me to navigate and others to navigate the licensure process, right? It was just kind of like, okay, well, what do you do next? And how do you accrue these hours? And what do you do that, right? So like even having just like a timeline of how to work that out would be, ideal to have, sort of like a life skills class, right? This is what you're going to encounter when you like go out on your own, right? The licensure process, and again, the aspect of, conflict of interest, just getting just a lot deeper in that aspect, because you are, again, working with so many providers that, at some point you're like, should I disclose this? But wait, we're within the same realm, right? We're all CPS, but however, I shouldn't disclose this because this is a court mandated case, right? So it's a lot of challenges, but apart from like learning along the way, doing some kind of like course on, life skills kind of thing like you do in high school would be, ideal, but it definitely was, a journey. And this is why I say, before you go on your own, make sure you have a solid support system, and that, kind of like the ins and outs of many systems.
Thank you for sharing that. Andrea, would you like to share something else?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think like Stephanie was saying, it's right that there's so many things that you do learn out in the real world, and maybe it's the hard way, but I don't know. I almost feel like it's supposed to happen that way. Like I feel like I was very well prepared at PAU, and maybe had I had, beware of these things and these other things, then maybe that would have been not the right timing, or maybe it would have been too intimidating, or I don't know, I feel like I learned it when I was supposed to learn it in the situation that it was supposed to happen. So yeah, I feel very fortunate that I feel very like well prepared. I think at the time as a student, like I would question everything and like, am I as good? Like I would always think like, my supervisors are so good. Like, am I ever going to be that, am I ever going to be able to say these like great statements? Am I ever, when they were in my position, were they like this, or were, they were probably way better. And so I think as a student, like those insecurities would come up, and then like being out in the real world, and realizing that like, oh no, okay, like I was in the right path, and like this is just feeling like well equipped, and feeling like I was ready for what I was doing.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you for sharing that. Okay, so help me say thank you to Stephanie, Flor, and Andrea. We are grateful that you came today. The information that you provide is going to be so useful for students. And I will be posting this on our LTF website, and we'll send you a link. So thank you all so much for coming.
Can I say one last thing? Thank you all so
Yes,
much.
of course.
Please, please, please track your hours. Don't wait months, years. Just do it. Just do it, please. I'm saying that to myself right now. So just that is something that I learned the hard way.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. Again, thank you for coming.
Nice to see everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gracias por venir.
Bye.
Gusto de verlas.
Bye.